Okay, so this is the second step of structure, conduct, performance, paradigm, or framework. In the previous video, we covered all the factors that we need in order to see on the spectrum of market structure, given those indexes, those measures, on which part of this market spectrum we are standing. Are we closer to perfectly competitive market with a market structure with many competition in it, or are we closer to monopolized market or more monopolistic market structure? So given this market structure, as a firm, we need to make a decision about what we want to do, what kind of decision as a manager we need to do. We need to take these steps in order to run our business. So in addition to structural differences across industries, the conduct or behavior of the firm also tends to differ, and that depends on the market structure. So what kind of behaviors do we know? These are a bunch of behaviors that we know, or we can find, or we can name it, and these are not just only ones. So you may find more behaviors by firms or manager wants to accept to do that. So we'll talk about several of them later on as we get closer to end of this semester and the end of the book. In future chapters, you'll see that other behaviors. But these are the most important decisions or most common ones for most of industries. The first thing is pricing strategy. How do you come up with a decision on pricing or optimal price of the product that you have? Integration and merging strategies, advertisement strategies, and research and development strategies. Let's take a look at the pricing behavior. Assume you are a producer. How do you choose the price for a common product like, let's say, an ice cream or a sandwich or a t-shirt? How does your answer change if this product is a very new product in the market, let's say like a flying car or a one-way trip to moon or travel machine, something completely crazy idea, but you have that product available. How do you set the price for that? So in general, we have market-driven pricing method, we have cost-driven pricing method, or a mix of both. Market-driven pricing method looks at the price of similar products in the market and choose the price based on the similar product with some additional markup. Cost-driven pricing method looks at the cost of production and add this markup based on the cost of production. And the mixed method is basically what most of the firms tends to do that. So in order to make a decision, you need two of these factors: marginal cost and the role of market. In order to see this, we need an index. This index is called Learn Index. Learn Index is a measure of the difference between price and marginal cost as a fraction of product price. So Learn Index is P minus marginal cost over P. So price, and what is marginal cost? The cost of additional unit of goods that you want to produce. By rearranging the term, we can find something here, which is P equal 1 over 1 minus L times MC. So what is MC? Again, marginal cost. This is the cost of production. This is a cost-driven part. What is 1 over 1 minus L? This is what we call markup factor, right? This is what we call markup factor. And this markup factor is a very important thing for us because if you look at the definition, so we'll come back to this later, that this markup factor is somehow capturing the idea of the market in terms of the elasticity. So if you keep that in your mind, that we need to make marginal cost equal marginal revenue. So you recall that from previous chapters, mainly in chapter 1 and 2, we discussed that. So we have marginal revenue, and marginal revenue depends on elasticity, and it's a function of quantity, and therefore marginal revenue changes as we move along the demand curve. So let me instead of using this one, let me just very quickly show what's going on here. So this is basically what we did in the past. So this is a demand function, and this is marginal revenue here, we recall that. And then we say that the elasticity here is in absolute value bigger than 1, here elasticity is less than 1, and at this point elasticity is equal 1, the price elasticity. And then definitely at this point we have total revenue like this, right? So if we have something like this. So this is total revenue, what is changing by the quantity. So as you can see, marginal revenue changes by the level of elasticity, right? So marginal revenue is positive when elasticity is bigger. Marginal revenue is equal 0 when elasticity is equal 1 in absolute value. And marginal revenue is less than 1 when elasticity is less than 1. Sorry, marginal revenue is negative when elasticity is less than 1. So we know that marginal cost needs to equal marginal revenue, and therefore Obviously, in this case, you can just replace, instead of marginal cost, you can replace marginal revenue at the best scenario. And then we know that marginal revenue changes by the elasticity. So it shows that the market demand would affect or would be important in the pricing strategy. So again, I'll skip the example here. So let's take a look at Lerner index here for different industry that we had in the previous slides on the previous video. The food industry, what is the Lerner index is 0.26, and what is the markup factor is 1.35. So what does it mean? It means that a $1 cost in the food industry basically leads to 1.35 price. So 35 cents more than $1 cost. Whereas in tobacco industry, $1 marginal cost leads to $4.17, right? So this is basically the markup factor here. So $1 cost, because again we had 1 over 1 minus L multiplied by marginal cost, that's the price. And when you have instead of this L, so you can put 0.76, and therefore we have 4.17 times marginal cost. So if marginal cost is equal 1, so $1, so $1 marginal cost means the price that you can charge is $4.17. And if you have same story for, let's say, that paper industry, you at least you can charge $2.38. And if you have, let's say that again, textile industry, $1 cost, you can just only charge $1.27, 27 cents more. So this is again another feature that you can just use that. The question is that how do we calculate Lerner index? We have this formula of Lerner index here, and in order to find the Lerner index here, so you need to look at the price of the same product in previous years and compare to the cost of production in previous years. So you know that relatively on average what would be the Lerner index in previous years, and now you're going to apply it for coming years. And then based on this Lerner index, you will find the markup factor, and based on the markup factor, you can charge the price the way that you like. Another feature here, as a behavior of the firm, is the decision about integration. Integration means what? Uniting productive resource of firms under one formation, under one name, under one management, or maybe by the decision of a manager. So that's what we call integration. So two or more firms, more existing firms can unite and form a new firm, a single firm, which is what we call merger in this case. So integration can happen in a way that firms keep their identity separate, but they are still performing under same management decision pattern. But merger usually tends to somehow combine these two companies, merge them together, and form a new firm, a single firm, rather than two or several separate firms. The reason that we go for merging is to reduce the transaction cost, to reap the benefit of economies of scale and scope, and to increase market power, and also to gain better access to the capital market. To reduce the transaction cost means what? So let's say that we have two companies. So obviously, let's say that the easiest thing is renewing the contract for the labor. So we have two companies, two accounting system, two HR system, and HR department. So now by merging these two, you can just have one HR department, one accounting department, and then obviously all of the transaction costs would be less for you. If you merge with another company, suddenly you have larger scales of production, because you can just use two plants, and then two companies, two plants, and then maybe different range of products. And in this case, you can just produce or have a bigger range of customers. Let's say that you have a company that produces motorcycles, and you have another company that produces cars. These two get together, now they can have a larger market, and they can have economies of scale, and they can have economies of scope. Definitely, when two firms get together, the market becomes more powerful for these two firms united as a one single firm. So the market is bigger, and then they can have better access to the capital market. We have different type of integration. We have horizontal merger, which is usually merging two or more similar firms, similar final products into one single firm. And then we have vertical integration, which is usually happens when various stage in the production of a single product carried out in single frame. So we start from raw material, and then we know that in a backward vertical integration, in upstream level we have raw material, in downstream level we have final or finished good, which is closer to the customer's hand. So in between we have different companies that they basically add additional value to the raw material. But integration happens when you control the entire, or at least part of this chain of companies, or chain of decision making, or chain of products, or line of business here. So this is what we call vertical integration. So you can just read pros and cons here. I'm going to skip that. And then finally, we have conglomerates. And conglomerates are basically integration of two or more different product lines into a single firm. The best examples that you can see here, you can see any big corporation like, I don't know, Coca-Cola, and you know that the Coca-Cola are producing a variety of goods that they are not necessarily on the same category, or Nestle, the same thing, or P&G, Procter and Gamble is another one. So you see that you have in the Procter Gamble, you have products like, I don't know, like toothpaste, you have washing powder, you have razors like Gillette, you have batteries like Duracell, and you have I don't know, companies like Boss or Lacoste as a subsidiary or part of this business. And at the same time, we have Pringles, which is a chips, and so they are completely different business lines, but now produced by one single company. And then we have other stuff as well. I mean, similar to this company, you can find many like Kraft, like Coca-Cola, like Pepsi-Cola, Amazon these days, Walmart these days, Costco these days. These are big companies that they are producing their own products and the range of other products that they have. When you look at the research and development as another behavioral conduct by the firm, we see, okay, so we have different industries here, like pharmaceutical, like motor vehicle, like rubber or food or soap and cosmetics. And then we see our research and development as a percentage of the sales. And you see that the companies that usually requires more research and development, they spend more of their money or their budget on research and development, the case that we have in pharmaceutical industry. But for the other companies, research and development would be very limited, like food industry and Kellogg. Just look at that. So we have 1.5% of total sales is devoted to research and development, whereas for the pharmaceutical industry, we have 20%. When you look at the advertisement, the story is different. In the advertisement industry, the pharmaceutical industry tends to have less advertisement costs. So we have 5% of the total sales, total budget of sales goes to advertisement, whereas food and Kellogg are spending 10%, 11%, 12% for products that they have. So as the product is less technological, less required, less research and development, so these companies require more advertisement and vice versa. Okay, so this is the second video. I'm going to talk about the performance as the last part of this chapter in the next video.